In light of the ongoing community quarantine imposed in several areas of the country, and in consideration of the health and safety concerns of everyone involved, ITALPINAS Development Corporation adopted measures to afford our stockholders the opportunity to attend and participate in this meeting as effectively as a physical meeting by holding this year's annual stockholders meeting via remote communication or in absentia. That is pursuant to Section 49 of the Revised Corporation Code of the Philippines and SEC Memorandum Circular number 6-2020. Section 49 of Republic Act 11232, or the Revised Corporation Code of the Philippines, authorizes shareholders who cannot physically attend or vote at shareholders' meetings to do it through remote communication. Further, the Securities and Exchange Commission has issued Memorandum Circular number 6, series of 2020, dated March 12, 2020, providing for guidelines on the attendance and participation of directors, trustees, stockholders, and members of corporations during regular and special meetings through remote or electronic means of communication. Section 10 of the said memo provides that when so indicated in the bylaws or by approval of the majority of the board of directors, stockholders who cannot physically attend at stockholders' meetings may participate in such meetings through remote communication or other alternative modes of communication. It is in this light that this virtual annual stockholders meeting of IDC is being held today. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now have our national anthem followed by an opening prayer.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Ayan magiging pinagkasinananan, alam ng puso sa naging-boy buhay. Lupang hinilang, bulan ka ng magiging, sa manlulupin, di ka masisiyo. Sa nagkakatulo, sa simulat, sa daming kumbagang, ang labang tula at awit sa paglayang inahan. Ang islang ng walang ako'y tagumpay na nalilig. Ang iguling katawang na kalan, ang may nagtilig. Luwan ang araw ng palay at sila, ay naging sa piling mo. Ang ligaya na may mag-aari, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Lord, thank you for this day, for the presence of everyone in this call. For once again, we are gathered and given the opportunity to appreciate life and your words. Forgive us for our shortcomings and cleanse our hearts as we learn and live your words and example. Father, bless our endeavors, especially today's meeting. May you guide us in our discussions, and may you enlighten our minds in every decision that we make. Give us your grace that we may effectively do our parts for your greater glory. All this we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Chairman, Mr. Romulo V. Nati.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the Board of Directors and the management of IDC, ITALPINAS Development Corporation, we welcome you fellow shareholders. I would like to take a moment to introduce a nominee for the election of the Board of Directors. Romulo Nati, Jose Lebiste III, Shannon C., Dionisio Tejero, Elvira Blaza, Christine Baze, Onina Nazal, and as independent directors, Mr. Rafael Dominguez and Mr. Jose Araulo. Also present in the meeting are our stock and transfer agent, BDO Unibank Trust and Investment Group, and our independent auditors, BDO Rojas, Kratz, Tagel, and Co. Before we proceed further, shareholders were asked to vote on several items upon their online registration for the meeting, and the result of the voting were tabulated. I hereby call this annual meeting of the shareholders to order. I will now give the floor to Mr. Jose D. Leviste III, who will preside for the rest of the meeting. Welcome and thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this annual meeting of the stockholders of ITALPINAS Development Corporation is now called to order. Ms. Corporate Secretary, were notices duly issued and do we have a quorum?
Mr. Chairman, notices of this meeting, together with the agenda and the information statement of the corporation, were sent beginning December 29, 2020, to all stockholders of record as of October 15, 2020, that's by personal delivery and by courier with postage prepaid. Based on the record of attendance, stockholders attending this meeting in person or in absentia and by proxy represent 292,446,309 common shares. This constitutes 67.4% of the total outstanding capital stock of the corporation as of record date of October 15, 2020. We therefore have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. May I request the Corporate Secretary to discuss the rules and voting procedures followed for this meeting?
Mr. Chairman, stockholders who have registered online participated in this annual stockholders meeting via remote communication and exercised their right to vote in absentia or vote by proxy. Our procedures for registration, voting, and participation in this annual stockholders meeting are contained in the definitive information statement distributed to the shareholders and have been implemented as follows. Stockholders signify their intention to participate via remote communication by submitting requirements. One, by emailing it at the office of the corporate secretary via email or through the online web address we have provided. That was no later than January 13, 2021. Registered shareholders were given the opportunity to send their questions and comments prior to the meeting. Questions and comments received will be taken up in this meeting. However, should there be questions received but not addressed during the meeting due to time constraints, it shall be addressed separately by the company through the stockholders' email addresses. Each of the proposed resolutions for approval will be shown during the live streaming as the same is taken up at the meeting. Stockholders who registered through the online web address were included in determining the quorum, together with the stockholders who voted in absentia and by proxy. Voting shall only be allowed for stockholders who registered via voting in absentia or through the chairman of the meeting by providing the proxy. Stockholders voting in absentia who have previously registered through the online web address cast their votes either by proxy or in absentia by sending ballots through email or voting online. Except for the declaration of stock dividends and the increase in the authorized capital stock with the amendment of the Articles of Incorporation related thereto, which needed 2/3 vote, all the items in the agenda for the approval by the stockholders needed the affirmative vote of stockholders, representing at least a majority of the issued and outstanding voting stock at the meeting. Election of directors will be by plurality of votes, and every stockholder will be entitled to cumulate his votes. I will report the results of the voting during the meeting. The proceedings of this meeting shall be recorded in audio and video format. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Corporate Secretary, for the guidelines. With that, we can begin with our agenda. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the annual stockholders meeting held on October 21st, 2019. Copies of the minutes were posted on the company's website. Ms. Corporate Secretary, can you present the minutes of the previous meeting and the voting results thereof?
Mr. Chairman, a copy of the minutes of the previous meeting of the 2019 annual meeting has been made available through the company's website. We would like to make it of record that stockholders owning 292,446,309 shares, or 100% of the shares represented in the meeting, voted to approve the minutes of the meeting. No shares voted against it and none abstained, Mr. Chair.
This is noted, and accordingly, the motion is hereby carried, and the October 21st, 2019 minutes of the Annual Stockholders Meeting are approved. The next item on the agenda is the presentation of the management's report and approval of the financial statement as of December 31st, 2019. With this, I'd like to invite our Chairman and CEO, Architect Romulo Nati, to take the floor again and present the progress report and results of operations for the company in the year 2019.
You. Good afternoon, everyone. IDC, ITALPINAS Development Corporation, a company incorporated back in 2009. Our business model is we are a design-driven developer of sustainable properties focusing on emerging cities in the Philippines. Our advocacy is design and building only green buildings in the Philippines. Our buildings are rated green by EDGE, which is a green rating system developed by IFC through the World Bank. Just a brief introduction about myself. I am graduated in architecture in La Sapienza University in Rome. I have a master in business administration at the Institute Asian of Management. And my partner, Jose Pileviste III, the president, also president of Constellation Energy Corporation, experience in Australia, studying the US in the Philippines. Just a slide to present our unique value propositions. As I said, we are committed to passive green design strategies. We are interested in developing green projects in emerging locations in the country for the aspirational growing market in the Philippines. Projects that we have developed and we are currently developing and future projects. We started with Primavera Residences in Cagayan de Oro, as awarded as the best mixed-use building in the Philippines in 2014, followed by Primavera City project, also under development now in Cagayan de Oro, same location of Primavera Residences. Our first project in Luzon is Miramonte Green Residences, which is rising now in Santo Tomas, Batangas. Primavera Residences, our first flag project in Cagayan de Oro, located in uptown Cagayan, just in front of an SM mall. The project is fully constructed and turned over and fully sold out. It features passive green design strategies that made the IDC a premium developer in the green building environment. These are actual photos of the project, which also feature solar panels on the rooftop for production of renewable energy to be given to the condo core. These are some photos of the project. Just a few words about our buyers profile. We have a big number of local businessmen interested in investing in lock and live units in green buildings, followed by a big number of OFWs interested also in investing in their own country, in their own city. The number of foreigners investing in IDC products is growing, as for the employees in the country. The ongoing project still in Cagayan de Oro, as mentioned earlier, same location is Primavera City. We are now almost completed with Città Verde, phase 1, that we are planning to turn over within this quarter. Construction of Città Bella also undergoing. Permitting of Città Grande, Città Alta also undergoing. These are some renderings that show the building when it will be fully completed. It will have around 1,300 residential units plus commercial. Our company feature Italian modern design integrated with renewable energy features. Also, this project has been awarded as the best mixed-use project in the Philippines in 2016. This is the project it was at the end of 2019. This is phase 2 under construction of Primavera City, phase 2. Phase 2. Buyer profile, it replicates the same buyer profile that we have in Primavera Residences. Our first project in Luzon, as mentioned, in Santo Tomas, Batangas, in an area surrounded by industrial parks. The project is located between Metro Manila and the rising port of seaport of Batangas. Santo Tomas is becoming the hub of central Luzon, with highways also under construction going toward Lucena City. We are located in the proximity of an industrial park. Phase 1 is under construction. Phase 2 is under permitting stage. These are some renderings that show how the entire development will look like once completed. Also, this project has been awarded as the best mixed-use building in the Philippines in 2018. This is how the project back in 2019. Buyer's profile is similar to the buyer's profile we have in other projects. We have a big number of local businessmen happy to invest in lock and live green units, and 27% of OFWs, again, happy to invest in their own country and in their own cities. Few slides about our performance. We have been showing a consistent growth, starting from our 5.3 million pesos net profit in 2013. We have been able to achieve 181 million, 0.43 in 2019. Also, our revenue have been growing. As for our net income, and we also been able to increase drastically our total liability and equity, starting from 483 million in 2013, reaching almost 2 billion pesos in 2019. Total asset also is growing. As for total equity, and we can proudly say that our to-debt equity ratio has been consistently maintained low. Return asset as well, it shows how IDC is performing well. Thank you very much. Salamat po.
Thank you, Architect Nati, for the report and the overview. The 2019 audited consolidated financial statements of the company were appended to the definitive information statement sent to all stockholders of record. Ms. Corporate Secretary, can you present the proposed resolution to approve the 2019 AFS and the voting results thereof?
Mr. Chairman, the proposed resolution is flashed on the screen. We would like to make it of record that stockholders owning 292,343,204 shares, or 99.96% of shares represented in the meeting, voted to approve the resolution, none voted against it, and 103,105, or 0.04%, abstained. Mr. Chair.
This is noted, and accordingly, the motion is hereby carried. The 2019 AFS is hereby approved. The next item on the agenda is the approval and ratification of all acts of the Board of Directors and Management during the preceding year. May I request the Secretary to explain this agenda item?
Mr. Chairman, this matter being proposed for approval and ratification of the shareholders refers to the acts and resolutions of the Board of Directors and Management since the meeting of the stockholders last October 21, 2019, up to the date of this meeting. This were summarized in the definitive information statement provided to the shareholders and also disclosed and posted at the company's website. The acts of the board and its committees include approvals of contracts and agreements, investments and capital expenditures, treasury and other matters that have been subject to the corporate disclosures to the Philippine Stock Exchange and the Securities and Exchange Commission. The acts of management refer to those made to implement resolutions of the board and its committees and undertaken in the general conduct of the business and affairs of the company. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Corporate Secretary. Could you present the proposed resolution to approve the acts of the board, its committees, and of management, and provide the voting results?
Mr. Chairman, the proposed resolution is flashed on the screen. And stockholders owning 292,431,321 shares, or 99.9% of shares represented in the meeting, voted to approve the resolution. 0 shares voted against it, and 14,988, or 0.01%, abstained, Mr. Chair.
This is noted, and accordingly, the motion is hereby carried. The acts of the board, its committees, and of management are hereby ratified and approved. The next item is the election of directors. May I request Mr. Rafael A. Dominguez, Chairman of the Nomination and Corporate Governance Committee, to report on the nominees for election to the company's board of directors.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In accordance with the corporation's bylaws, the Nominations Committee has pre-screened and shortlisted all candidates nominated to the board of directors. The following persons have been nominated for election to the board of directors for the ensuing year, and each one has accepted their nomination, namely Romulo V. Nati, Jose D. Leviste III, Shenan A. C., Attorney Dionisio Tejero, Elvira Ablasa, Christine P. Base, Monina Jane S. Nazal, and as independent directors, Rafael A. Dominguez, Independent Director, Jose G. Araulo, Independent Director. Except for Ms. Monina Jane S. Nazal, all nominees are incumbent members of the board. All nominees have been determined by the committee to possess all the qualifications and none of the disqualifications provided under the company's bylaws, Manual of Corporate Governance, and the SEC rules, and are eligible for re-election to the board of directors.
Thank you, Director Dominguez. Ms. Corporate Secretary, could you present the voting results?
Mr. Chairman, we are now presenting and flashing on the screen the tabulation. We now have the tally of the votes cast in favor of the nominees.
This is noted. Accordingly, the following are hereby elected as directors for the year 2020. Romulo V. Nati, Jose D. Leviste III, Shenan A. C., Dionisio Tejero, Elvira Ablasa, Christine P. Base, Monina Jane S. Nazal, and as independent directors, Rafael A. Dominguez and Jose G. Araullo. Congratulations and thank you for your participation to the board of directors. The next item on the agenda is the appointment of the external auditor. May I request Mr. Jose G. Araullo, Chairperson of the company's Audit and Risk Oversight Committee, to report on its evaluation and recommendation, please.
Mr. Araullo, I think we lost Mr. Araullo, but Mr. Chairman, the audit committee has forwarded to us. We have Mr. Araullo, no, the audit committee has forwarded to us their recommendation, and they have said that after having considered the qualifications, performance, independence, and the quality and candor of communication with the company of the incumbent external auditors, BDO Rojas Tagle and Company, the Audit and Risk Oversight Committee, on behalf of the board, recommends the reappointment of BDO Rojas Cruz Tagle and Co. as the company's independent auditors for the financial year 2020, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Corporate Secretary, for the report on behalf of Committee Chairman Araulio. Could you also please present the proposed resolution to appoint the external auditor and the voting results?
Mr. Chairman, the proposed resolution is now being flashed on the screen. And we would like to make it of record that stockholders owning 292,446,309 shares, or 100% of the shares represented in the meeting, voted to approve the minutes of the meeting. So 0 shares voted against it and none abstained.
This is noted, and accordingly, the motion is carried. BDO Rojas Cruz Tagle and Company is hereby appointed for the year 2020. The next item in the agenda is the amendment of the Articles of Incorporation of the company to increase its authorized capital stock up to 1.4 billion shares. The board approved to amend the Articles of Incorporation of the company to increase its authorized capital stock in order to provide the company more flexibility for any potential business opportunities in the future that would need sufficient authorized and unissued shares that can be issued promptly. Ms. Corporate Secretary, could you present the proposed resolution to ratify the board approval amending the company's Articles of Incorporation and the voting results?
Mr. Chairman, the proposed resolution is flashed on the screen. We would like to make it of record that stockholders owning 292,446,309 shares, or 100% of the shares represented in the meeting, voted to approve the minutes of the resolution. 0 shares voted against it and none abstained.
This is noted. Accordingly, the motion is hereby carried and approved. The next agenda item is declaration of stock dividends. In order to satisfy the subscription requirement for the proposed increase in authorized capital stock of the company in the amount of 97,691,710 pesos, which is equivalent to 195,383,419 shares in favor of all stockholders of record in proportion to their respective shareholdings, payable on a record date to be set by the President after approval by the Securities and Exchange Commission of the increase in authorized capital stock. Ms. Corporate Secretary, can you present the proposed resolution to ratify the board approval and the voting results?
Mr. Chairman, the resolution is now flashed on the screen. And stockholders owning 292,431,321 shares, or 99.9% of the shares represented in the meeting, voted to approve the resolution. No one voted against it. However, 14,988, or 0.01% shares abstained.
This is noted. Accordingly, the motion is hereby carried and approved. The next item in the agenda is the amendment of bylaws. The Board of Directors recommended to amend the bylaws to authorize attendance and voting in board and shareholders meetings via remote communications. Ms. Corporate Secretary, can you present the proposed resolution to ratify this board approval? And please provide the voting results.
Mr. Chairman, the proposed resolution is flashed on the screen. And we would like to make it a record that stockholders owning 292,446,309 shares, or 100% of the shares represented in the meeting, voted to approve the resolution, which is the amendment of the company's bylaws. Nobody voted against it and none abstained, Mr. Chair.
This is noted. Accordingly, the motion is hereby carried and approved. The last item on the agenda is other matters. Are there any other matters which can be taken up by the stockholders at this meeting, or any questions?
Mr. Chair, I received some questions during the registration of the stockholders, and we would like to address them before we adjourn. Our first question the first question from a stockholder goes like, how does IDC address the COVID situation, and how will it handle it for the years to come? Maybe I will will direct the answer to Mr. Romulo Donati. So,
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, Corporate Secretary. I can answer the question. Thank you very much for asking that. IDC can proudly say that has been implemented ahead of time all measures to protect our employees, our partners, and our client. On top of that, we have been able to strengthen our IT capability together with our back office operation, reducing contacts between people, but increasing efficiency of the overall company. As a result, in the past year, we have more sales reservation than in the previous years, and we have been able also to optimize our cost of business. This is for the past. For the future, we will continue to following this trend and improving our IT capability. Actually, these shareholder meetings online is a proof of that. And in terms of our business operation and profitability, we can say that the new normal or the post-pandemic scenario is aligned with what IDC has been always developing in terms of concept of living outside congested areas and living in green buildings that allow people to have a healthier environments where they can enjoy more natural light, more natural ventilation, reducing so the living in indoor spaces, having rely on electricity and on aircon. So this is just to answer your question. Thank you very much, Mr. Corporate Secretary.
thank you, sir. The other two questions are related, so maybe I will answer it together. The questions are, when do we expect the stock dividends? And the other question is, what's the reason for IDC to increase capital stock? Because they're related, I'll probably address them together. Oh, the reason for IDC having Mr. Jojo Leviste, this is to also anticipate potential facing and investors coming into the company. When do we expect the stock dividends to be issued? Well, the declaration is today, and we would have to go to the SEC for its approval. And then as soon as it's approved by the SEC, we'll have it listed with the Philippine Stock Exchange. And that's when the stockholders will actually tangibly receive the stock dividends. But right now, it's already a right. It's already declared. We just don't know when the regulators approve them. But yes, so we do not have a specific timing, but we will, as of now, we will be working on it already. Those are the questions that we have received, Mr. Chairman. There's no other matters to be taken up during in this meeting.
If there are no other questions or other matters, then we can adjourn the meeting. We hereby adjourn the proceedings. To the newly elected members of the board, please be reminded that the organizational board meeting for the year 2020 to 2021 will be held immediately after this meeting. With that, thank you to everyone for your participation.